Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the EBC radio broadcast. Tonight we will be discussing the petition to the nation-states moderators on harassment and dealing with off-site evidence. Tonight I am joined by Asta. H-E-M.
Hi, that's me. Sorry, I wasn't sure. I wasn't aware I was supposed to say myself.
Asta?
Yes.
H-E-M.
Hey, I'm here.
And Malashaan.
Hey, hello everyone.
All right. So, obviously we have quite a crowd gathering. So, let's run through some basic introductions. Starting with Asta.
Man, I always have to go first. It's because I picked a name that starts with A. So I'm Asta. I've been playing the game for about 13 years now. I started out in Equalism. I'm currently mostly active in TNP with the Nation Silly String. I was a defender. Now I just sort of, bum around and attempt to coup the place. So that's me.
Hem?
I'm Hem. I accidentally, founded Europea a while ago, and now I am the chief administrator of our forums. I used to raid, and now I just do whatever as well as Asta. So now we have something in common.
Oh, there you go.
And Malashaan.
Hey, I think I've been playing about 11 years now. Spent the first 5 of those in Democrats and pretending the rest of the nation-states didn't exist. Then about 6 years ago, I moved over to Europea, met Hem. For the last 3 years, I've been an admin with him in Europea, and I've kind of dotted around a lot of other regions part-time as well. I was also an admin in Democrats before I moved on to Europea.
All right. On to the meat of this broadcast. Asta.
Yes.
So what was the motivation behind the petition, and what were you expecting it to achieve, and what did you hope it would achieve?
Okay, well, so I want to say first, I didn't write the petition alone. I had a ton of help, a lot from Renaissance. He and I kind of did the first draft together, and then a lot of other people had a chance to read it before it went public and give their thoughts and suggestions. So it definitely was not a solo effort. But the goal with the petition was when the thing with Brunn got revealed, I don't know, it kind of sparked a lot of us, just a lot of female players. We're sick of dealing with this. We're tired of this shit, to put it simply. And we wanted to see if we could actually make a difference. My original thought was not to write a petition. It was actually to start organizing female players into posting violations of the defamation rule on the site to force moderation to take the really terrible optical stance of having to silence and warn female players for talking about harassment. I think this was a better plan. The original was obviously an angry plan, and so the petition kind of came out of organizing that. But so that's kind of where it came from. Is we're tired of this, and we really want it. What was the rest of the question? What was I hoping to achieve?
Yeah, what were you expecting, and what were you hoping? Because
dealing
with this,
I was hoping we would get a change in policy. I was hoping that, especially with the current, climate in real life, with all of the allegations that are coming forward about a lot of people, I was hoping that, this would be a chance for the moderation team to, I guess, realize that they've been handling this wrong. And to make a change that would really benefit a lot of players. I can't say I was expecting much. I generally don't get my hopes up when it comes to people appropriately handling harassment. So they kind of met my expectations with their response. That's not a good thing.
All right. Oh, let's start in reverse order. So, Malashaan, what are your thoughts and opinions on on the petition and the policy change?
In terms of the petition or the response, just to be clear.
Let's start with the petition, because we'll definitely be talking about the response.
Yes. Okay. So I didn't have that much involvement in the drafting. I was one of the people that Asta mentioned that I read it when a draft that her and Ren had put together. I added a couple of comments, but nothing major. But kind of echo everything that was said, that I wasn't expecting much from it. We've been down this road before of trying to get policies changed and not getting very far. But I agree that it's an important issue. It's one that a lot of us as foreign administrators struggle with and have found ways to do what we can and have had some success. And I saw it almost as an offer to nation states moderation more than I've seen people refer to it as a demand, and I saw it more as an offer that we've figured out ways of doing a lot more in this area than they're doing. And we're more than willing to share that expertise and that experience with them. And they just don't seem to be interested in even kind of thinking about it. And that's what's frustrating and kind of led me to signing it, is that the current rules are back to front in my view. The current rule is this is hard to deal with, so we're not going to try. And the rule should be, this is hard to deal with, so we're going to try, but expect that a lot of the time we're going to say, we can't prove this, so we're not going to do anything. I'd be okay with that, even though I think that would be, I still don't think that's necessarily good enough, but that's at least an attempt. And at the moment, it's the idea is, because it's difficult in some cases, we're not even going to think about the easy cases. So kind of the example in my head I've been thinking is, at the moment under the current rules, they keep saying we should report people to the police if we say things. So we could report something to the police could arrest a player, they could charge them, and they could be convicted with paedophilia, or some kind of paedophilia crime. And maybe, it's first offence, it's maybe not like child rape, it's child pornography or something, and they get maybe a year in jail and then they're out on probation. That year later, the current policy is, that's offsite evidence, we can't verify it, therefore we're going to let that person back in and we're not going to care if they're dealing with young children on our site. And that is just crazy. That even if we go through that channel and report it, and someone's been convicted of a crime, they won't do anything to protect people, and we can't even talk about it, so we can't even warn people about it in the most direct way. We have to kind of go around the back and talk through our networks, rather than go to the central point, which is the nation-states website, and say, this is what's happened. And that's just crazy to me.
I want to jump in for a second and say, that sounds hypothetical, and it is yet another example where it is actually not hypothetical. This is a real thing that has happened.
Yes. And I was kind of hedging on saying exactly that, but yes, that has happened, which is why I kind of picked that example.
Yeah.
All right. So that sounds like the current rules are obtuse, to say the least.
That's a kind way of putting it.
Hem, would you care to weigh in on with your thoughts on the petition and petitioned policy changes?
Yeah, I think, Asta and Malashaan just, made a lot of the key points, so I won't ramble on too much. But, something I keep coming back to is, the local administrators and the forum administrators really, bust their asses to do some of this stuff. And, I don't say this to kind of pat myself on the back or, be like, oh yeah, we're so awesome. I say it because a lot of us had no idea what we were signing up for when we started kind of taking on these roles. And our response to, events, harassment events our response was to adapt and to, learn how we can address these things and to, take action and try to figure out the best way forward when allegations do come up. And, I certainly haven't been perfect at handling everything. I don't think anyone has been, but it's just mind-boggling to me that, you have, this institution of moderation on the site, and their reaction is to find any way to abdicate responsibility that they can. And it's just really bizarre when it's some of us, Malashaan would be a great example. When I brought him on as an admin, had no idea we would be dealing with some of this stuff. And even back then, admins, we didn't even really do the kind of investigation stuff that we do. But his reaction wasn't, this isn't what I agreed to, it's too much work. his reaction was, I'm going to do what I can to address this problem. So, and I echo everything else that's been said so far as well. Just in terms of, the motivations behind this, I'm obviously, not a female in this game. But I have heard so many stories that are just so traumatizing. And there are male victims as well, which is, in this game, it's totally nuts that so many victims of so many different types are, just being totally maligned by moderation. So, yeah, that's all I have to say for now. I'm sure I'll have more to say as we go along.
It is rather disappointing. All right, my next question was going to be the effects of the current mod policy. You did go into it and explain a little bit. Do you have anything further to say on on what the current mod policy does?
I mean, the best way to sum it up, I think, and I've posted a couple times about this, is at best, it advertises to predators or would-be predators that they are fine as long as they can find their activities to offsite. They can use the site to find new victims. They can use the site to invite those people to offsite locations. They can continue to use the site after they've harassed them or stalked them or driven them off the game, as long as none of it occurs on the NS forums or the RMB or via Telegram. And it's not only short-sighted in that it drives away actually the people we want around, but it's almost an invitation. Like, it is outright saying, we can't do anything as long as you're smart about your behavior.
That is most frustrating.
I would add to that as well that another consequence of the current way of doing it is that it puts more and more emphasis on people like the three of us on this session to try and do what we can. And we do, I think we've all done a lot of work on these kind of issues, but there's only so much we can do. And it's like, as Hem alluded to, it's not what we originally signed up for. We didn't say, or at least in my case, I didn't say I want to be a forum admin because I want to have to stay up till 3 a.m, like I did with the Brun investigation, and have a conversation with someone who I believe is a sexual predator, basically saying, confronting them and saying, this is what we think, this is all the evidence we have, this is what we think is going on. If you want to stay around, prove to us that we're wrong. It's not a pleasant experience, especially if you end up being wrong. It's not happened to us yet, but I can only imagine what it would be like if we did confront someone and they actually did provide us, say, no, look, this is the explanation, you're wrong about this. It's just a very stressful experience. And we don't want to stop doing it. We're not saying we're not willing to do it, but it would be nice if the organization that put us in this position in the first place would at least be willing to support us a little bit. And at the moment, they don't seem to be.
Because right now, all we can do is get somebody off of our forum. And, as long as they're not really good at proxying, we can generally keep them off. But we can't stop them from going somewhere else. A lot of the bigger regions will work together. I know TNP banned Brun based on Euro's investigation. None of it happened on our site. Brun was not even a citizen. I don't think even a resident, just had an account. But we take it seriously. But it relies on word of mouth and people working together. And it still doesn't keep them from going back and joining another region that maybe isn't going to believe us about what happened, or we don't know where they are, especially if they make a new nation. Not that they even need to do that, given moderation's current policy, though I suppose making a new nation means we can't easily just track them to their new region. But it means that we put all of this work in. And I think, how long did the Brun investigation last? Was it a month or more? That's a lot of work. And it helps us, but it's not enough. It doesn't actually keep the person from continuing to hurt others. It just keeps them off of our forum.
Yeah, I think that's all super right. And to kind of, go down this hypothetical, we could call it World 2, maybe, if we're going down an alternative path, is, in the Brun investigation, one thing the admins talked about a lot is how we react if, Brunhilde fights back. and really tries to mobilize a response against this. My nightmare scenario was very much that this would become a really big, conflict across NS with people who would side with Brune and people who would side with us. And in that situation, oh, I think I'm hearing a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, that's coming from Asta.
It's from me.
Yes, I think so. Looks like your
I'm
circle
sorry.
is Discord. That's all right. This happens.
So I don't know that it's me.
But anyways, kind of in that scenario, being able to talk to, NS moderators and NS staff and be like, here's the evidence, like, can we get this person off the game? Would have really, that would have made or break it. If they looked at the evidence and, they said, yes, you're right, this person needs to be off the game, they're a predator, it would have been a happy ending. But if you go down that road, which, I think was very possible, I think we got very lucky. I think we stumbled upon some last minute evidence that really made our case a lot stronger. And I think how Brune reacted was just like, they didn't see a way out of it, I guess. But, there was a big possibility that they were going to, fight it and be like, this is all lies. It's because I won this presidential election. Everyone is mad at me. And they would continue to prey on people. And we could go to the NS staff and they would have been like, well, we don't intervene in those sort of things. So, it's not really our business. They could, see you later. And that would have been a real disaster, I think, for the game. So I don't know. I think that's really why this is super important. And, like Asta said, like, we can do our best. But if we don't really have the backing of the game staff, there are going to be tricky situations ahead that I don't know how will all play out.
Well, and this particular one is remarkable in the extent to which the Euro admins verified all of the evidence. I mean, going so far as to look into like real life records about this person. That's a lot of work that apparently took actual money. And there's a difference between going to that level of verification to make sure you are actually accusing someone of something they did, that you're reasonably certain that they did. There's a difference between that and using logs of conversation. Not that I think that logs don't have a place, but there's a big difference between that ban based on the evidence that you guys actually got, all of it, and banning someone because somebody submitted a bunch of like Discord logs of them being inappropriate. You can still do work to verify the Discord stuff, but I totally understand that that's harder to do, and it's by itself it's a lot more prone to abuse. But the fact that NS moderation won't even like draw a distinction between the log evidence and the sort of evidence that you guys had against Brune is really worrying.
I think the thing that really frustrates me with the way they've handled it over the years and the way they're still handling it is, I think they fundamentally view this issue from the wrong perspective. Is all of their responses, like when we've talked about it before and this time around, to jump a little bit ahead, have been, they're treating it like they're a court of law and this is a criminal charge against somebody. And they're kind of applying this beyond reasonable doubt type standard that, if we can't be 100% certain that this has happened, we're not going to do anything. And I don't think that is at all the correct model. We have a situation here where it's much more like they are they're putting on a house party at their house. And we have pretty compelling evidence that one of the people they've invited turns out to be a sexual predator. It's like you don't just say, oh, well, we're not sure, so we're going to invite them anyway. If you've got like a house party with a bunch of kids at it and somebody you think is a dangerous sexual predator, you think really hard about... Yeah, you uninvite them and you think really hard about how to deal with it. And if you want to be fair, and this is kind of something I've raised throughout the processes, it's kind of what we do with our internal processes, is when you get to that point where you're 90% certain, 95% certain, whatever your threshold is, that's the point where you go to the person who you think is doing this and say, this is what we think, this is why we think it. The burden is now on you to prove us wrong because we think we're right. We're like, we think this is what's going on, and that is a huge threat to this community, and we're not willing to take that risk. I'm not willing to take the risk in Europea that someone I'm 90% certain is a sexual predator. I'd rather take the risk on the 10% and get it wrong once than have that person serially abusing people. And especially when you combine that with the giving them the chance to say, no, you're wrong and I can prove it. Yeah, the chances of it being a false positive are almost zero in the long run. I mean, as happened with Brun, like, I wasn't 100% certain when we confronted her. I was pretty certain, but I wasn't 100% certain. And then she didn't admit it to us immediately, but she or he immediately posted on the nation states forum in gameplay admitting it and admitted it on Discord to other people. So at that point, it's like, okay, yeah, now I'm 100%, but we would never, I don't think I would ever have got to that 100% point unless he had admitted it to somebody, because it is difficult. You can't be 100% certain on these things.
But you have to make the best decision you have with the information you have based on keeping people safe.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's
Mal, did you want to finish just a thought?
No, I think that's pretty much it.
I agree, 100%. And it's like, the way I approach this personally, and, forum admins can kind of, tailor this to, what they will, but it's like, I look at, like, what does the preponderance of evidence say? It's more like, I don't know, Mal, I'm going to drift into legal stuff here, but it's more like a civil suit, maybe. But maybe even a lower bar than that. It's kind of just like what you look at the evidence, you're like, what is the most likely, thing here? I probably wouldn't ban someone on like, a 55-45 certainty, maybe, but like, we're getting some of these cases, it's like, it's like Brun, like, it's like, I think, I probably went into that conversation 98% sure. And, maybe Mal went in, like 90% sure, like 85% sure. And it's like, that's just what you got to do sometimes. We were never, and here's something, just emphasizing that case as well, so fresh in our memory. Like, Brun knew what they were doing. I mean, very, very actively knew exactly what they were doing. And that's why it made it so difficult. There was never a point where we found a real silver bullet in terms of like, here's one thing we can say that proves everything. That's why we had the really lengthy report, because there was no one thing we could point to. I mean, predators know what they're doing. And like, Asta was saying before, they understand the rules of the site. They're going to use the rules of the site. I mean, Brun just looking at that case, part of the big part of the case was proving that Brun was the same person as Fitzgerald / Matthias / Brian. And I mean, it was methodical to the point where Brun had not logged into any of those like old accounts for years on any forum we could find. I mean, we looked everywhere. And there was one forum where they had logged in a little bit closer to present day, but not nearly close enough. And so it's just like, these people are methodical. They're plotting. They understand the loopholes. And we're leaving this big one open and continually advertising it by shaming and punishing victims and survivors that come forward to try to talk about their experience. So just a really bad situation.
Just point out again the fact that Brun admitted everything he did. It was laid out with extensive evidence on the Euro forum, and none of us can talk about it on the site because it's defamation.
Right. I wonder, I mean, Brun did post on the forum, it's true. But it's like, even if that, but if that hadn't been the case, we definitely couldn't talk about it. Maybe we still couldn't talk about it because it wasn't explicit enough of a confession. So
which
very
is
frustrating.
Like,
yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, I do understand the basis of a rule that says it's not okay to deliberately smear players. So, it's not okay to go around in multiple threads saying things about them. If these aren't true, if the player complains, you should get a warning if you're just making things up. But they've extrapolated it to mean that, that we can't state anything negative about another player, even things that are true. And it's not even just that. They've tried to go so far as to say that there's a legality issue at play, as if they could possibly be held legally responsible for us stating that somebody was convicted of something on a different forum. And that's just overzealous. It's wrong. It's legally incorrect. And it's just serving to protect predators. It's not helping the game, and it's not actually protecting players.
And I think as well on the legal side, even if there's some combination of facts, and I know that Australian law applies, and I looked briefly into this, and Australian law is not the best on this. They haven't really updated their laws in view of the internet, like a lot of other countries have kind of made internet-specific laws, and they don't. They just rely on their old print laws still. But even if technically something that one of us said was defamation and could be attributed to nation states, there's still really no risk to them, because what is the harm? All they're going to get is an award from a court saying, oh, you've got to pay damages. And what are the damages? Like 150 people who read the Nation States Forum think that you might be a sexual predator, and most of them don't know who you are in real life. Probably none of them know who you are in real life.
And that's assuming we'd even go so far as damages. I mean, it's not like courts or police take accusations of wrongdoing on the internet seriously at all in any circumstance.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's never going to happen. And that's worst case scenario. Someone manages to prove a defamation case against nation states for something that somebody else said. There's really no damages. So they're not, they could just say, okay, fine.